Hello, everybody, and welcome to Untethered.tv. I'm your host and founder, Rob Woodbridge. And here we are. Got a great episode coming up. I know it's going to be a great episode, but I want to remind you about what it is that Untethered.tv does. Well, we take the simple things in life that we take for granted and bring it out, and we decipher everything in the mobile space. We learn about how companies have built their company in mobile, how they are building in mobile, how they are leveraging mobile, or in the case of today's guest, how pretty much 29 years of being in the loyalty business, driving some of the biggest brands, like Air Miles, Aeroplan, driving that kind of loyalty program, how they've translated into the mobile space, what the impact that mobile's had on the loyalty business. Everybody wants to be there. Everybody wants loyalty. But now we're going to get it right from the pioneers in this space about how they've done loyalty and how you can bring loyalty into your business. So joining me today is Rick Ferguson, who is the Vice President Knowledge Development for a company called Aimia. And Aimia is a company that you probably don't know of. But as I said, they power some of the biggest brands on the planet when it comes to loyalty. So Rick, thank you for doing this. I really appreciate that.
Yes, thank you for having me.
So you are you knowledge development for Aimia. You run the knowledge development, but a lot of people don't know what Aimia is. So why don't you give a little bit of background? You guys work with some of the biggest brands on the planet.
Yeah, that's true. And what's interesting about Aimia is the legacy of the company is actually quite storied. You could legitimately trace our company's history all the way back to the 1930s. So I'll talk about more recent history and then go back there. So the story of Aimia actually mirrors the growth of the loyalty industry. As we know, the modern loyalty industry kind of grew out of the frequent flyer industry, right, out of the airline industry. So you could probably trace the modern development of loyalty marketing back to around 1981. That was when American Airlines launched the first modern frequent flyer program, so the Advantage program. And then, of course, quickly, almost every airline launched a similar type of competing program, including Air Canada, right? So the genesis of Aimia is out of Air Canada and the Aeroplan program. So our CEO, a gentleman named Rupert Duchesne, was part of the team that spun off Aeroplan into a separate company out of Air Canada. So that was the genesis of Aimia. And at the time, the company was called Group Aeroplan. And then Group Aeroplan, over the past 5 years or so, started on a path of acquisition. So they bought a company called the Loyalty Management Group out of the UK, which operates the largest loyalty program in the UK. It's what we call a coalition program. It's called Nectar. And then we made some other acquisitions, including a company called Carlson Marketing, which was a loyalty marketing company of a long history with offices in about 20 countries around the world. And when I say that you could trace the company's history really back to the 30s, that brings in the Carlson Marketing portion, right? Because Kurt Carlson, the founder of Carlson Marketing in Minneapolis, created the Gold Bond Stamp Company in the U.S., which is one of those old companies where you had to collect the stamps and lick them and put them in the book and redeem those booklets of stamps for rewards, right? And that was really an early version of loyalty marketing, because you're earning a promotional currency and then collecting it, building up equity, and then redeeming it for something free that you'd like to get. And that's essentially, in many ways, what loyalty programs still do today, right? Whether you're earning miles towards a frequent flyer miles towards a free flight, or you're earning points towards merchandise, or you're earning cash back. It's that ability to reward repeat purchase and reward interaction and reward loyalty amongst your customer base, and to treat some customers a little bit differently than you treat other customers. Those are all the principles of loyalty that have grown up, and the growth of Aimia kind of mirrors the way loyalty marketing itself has grown up. So we were Group Aeroplan until about a year ago, and actually the year anniversary of our brand launch is coming up in October. So we rebranded the company. We realized that we were now a global company. And the name Group Aeroplan, while still had strong legacy history in Canada, didn't resonate as well in other parts of the world. So we went through a big rebranding exercise, and now we're Aimia, and it's a name that has a lot of resonance for us, right? It's a palindrome, and it speaks to precision, and it has a French connotation with our Montreal Canadian roots. So we thought it's a wonderful name, and we're very excited about it. And we're going out in the world and telling the Aimia story, which is taking this concept and discipline of loyalty marketing into the next century.
It really is. I think that as I said in the beginning, is that everybody wants loyalty, and there's an assumed loyalty, and I think there was a period of especially in retail and certainly in flying, where it's a given. Loyalty is a given, right? Where people have bought a Volvo, their parents bought a Volvo, so they bought a Volvo. My father shopped at Harry Rosen in Canada here, so I shopped at Harry Rosen in Canada. It's like, these are traditions passed down from family. You have that loyalty. My mother shops at the local grocer, so of course I shopped there. My mother got the Citizen, our local newspaper, so I got the. So there's an assumed loyalty, but something happened, obviously, 90s, 2000, that kind of threw loyalty and that long-term loyalty that has been built up from generation to generation, kind of in turmoil. At least that's the way it seems like to me. And now I think we're clamoring back for that loyalty, and brands are starting to get obviously much more engaged on the loyalty side. Am I way off in that? Like, did loyalty take a hit for the last 15 years or 10 years? And are we rethinking loyalty now because it's so competitive?
Well, certainly the level of competition has increased. The level of noise has increased. Consumers have much more control over the relationship than they used to have, right? So all that's a factor. And I think if marketers are guilty of anything, it's that we kind of lost sight of the fundamentals, right? And the fact that you bring up loyalty in terms of passing on the legacy loyalty of generations, that's a concept that I think's gotten lost a little bit. But the one thing I always remind folks when we're talking about this stuff is, in a way, loyalty marketing and loyalty programs are kind of misnamed, and it's kind of a name that we're stuck with, but it doesn't necessarily describe what we do, because I think we can say honestly that no loyalty program or loyalty offering or anything like that is actually going to make a customer more loyal, right? The things that make a customer loyal are the same things that Ray Kroc, from founder of McDonald's, talked about 50 years ago, right? It's quality, service, customer experience, price. Those are the things that make a customer loyal. If you do one or more of those things better than your competitor does, then you'll have more loyal customers than your competitor does. So it's focusing on those fundamental drivers of loyalty over the generations, as you say, that builds that sense of loyalty. So I think to a certain extent, we've gotten away from that concept, and marketers have gotten much more focused on the short term, on the deal, on meeting this quarter's numbers. And customers, quite frankly, have become so focused on getting the deal themselves that all those other drivers that we talked about have kind of taken a backseat to price, right? So almost all the conversation between customers and brands now is on price, and it's on the deal. So we've lost track, I think, of some of those other fundamental drivers of loyalty. But what a loyalty program can do is be a point of differentiation if most of those other factors are equal, right? So if you and your competitor down the street are offering roughly the same products and services at roughly the same prices, roughly the same level of customer service, it's hard to differentiate. And then you have to factor in things like inertia and habit and all the other things that keep a customer going to brand A versus brand B. But if you engage in the practice of loyalty marketing, and you try to understand your customers a little bit better than your competitor does. And we typically do that through the collection of customer insight, customer data, right? The more you know about your customer, and if you can deliver what you know to the customer back to the customer in the form of value or recognition or reward, that can be a difference maker, and it helps build a bit of a stickier relationship that your competitor has more trouble getting away from you. So that's what loyalty marketing does, and typically you need some type of an offer or a value proposition put on the table to encourage that deeper relationship. And historically, that value has taken the form of, a little bit of something that's free, reward, and that might be a free flight, might be merchandise, cash back, something that the customer gets free that they otherwise would have to pay for. And then you also build in, along with that, a sense of status or recognition. You recognize that some of your customers are actually more valuable than others. You've got customers that spend everything they can spend with you. They've been customers for a very long time, very high spenders. They have good lifetime value. And it's identifying who those customers are and treating them a little bit more special than you would the customer that just walked in the door on yesterday, and showing that sense of recognition. So all that's very important. It's that combination of recognition and reward that helps enhance the quality of the relationship that's formed by the loyalty built up by those fundamental drivers that we talked about. So hopefully all that made sense, but I think that's where we're positioned in terms of helping companies build up that insight, deliver it back in the form of reward and recognition, and be a real difference maker in the relationship.
Yeah, you opened up so many questions in my head there that aren't even on the ones that I provided to you, obviously, because loyalty. It's a term that's bandied everywhere, and we've seen and we as we transition here this conversation into the mobile space, because we see this quite a bit in the mobile space. Loyalty, maybe it's an abused term, like you said in this, because it's really fundamentals. It's business fundamentals. It's Gary Vaynerchuk qualified it in his most recent book. With the thank you economy, which is small business or small neighborhood or neighborhood rules, right? Which is exactly as I said, things are passed down, loyalty is passed down, and it's customer service and pricing and the combination of that. But we've kind of moved into this world where, especially in the software side, that the potential market is massive. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people downloading this software, utilizing these devices. The question I have is, can you create loyalty, true loyalty, with thousands and thousands and thousands of customers? Or are you really trying to focus on the 100 that are going to be coming back to you 3, 4, 5 times a day, or in mobile, or once or twice a week? I mean, how do you balance that? Thousands versus hundreds or dozens?
Well, that's where you get into, in very simple terms, customer segmentation. It's really understanding how customers behave differently based on what they need from you and how much they spend in your category. And it's finding that sweet spot where it's a symbiotic relationship, right? So both the customer and the brand are getting something out of the relationship. And what they want out of the relationship depends on where they are in terms of their customer journey. So you start to segment customers, and you might do classic RFM segmentation, where you try to figure out what the range of customer value segments are based on how much they spend, how often they spend, how often they show up, how recently they've shown up, right? Then you might be able to factor in things like attrition, like how likely is a customer to leave you if you don't take action for whatever reason, and how much of that attrition is systemic that you can't do anything about, and how much of it you have the potential to intervene and keep that customer. There's also value potential, right? So we have customers that we know are valuable, we know spend a lot of money, we want to keep them loyal. There might be other customers that we don't have quite the share of wallet that we want, but if we can understand and identify who these guys are, we might be able to turn them into those top tier customers with the right offer or the right communication. So if you want to think of it in really simplistic terms, it's you want to provide a basic level of customer service, all the Ray Kroc elements, and deliver that to everybody, right? So everybody that comes in to your store or visits you online or uses your card has the same quality of experience. But then you start to look for those customers that have high current potential or high current value, and the goal there is retention. You don't want to give them any reason to leave. And then you look for customers that have high potential that you think might be able to spend more with you, and then you test various offers to see if you can change their behavior. If they come in 3 times a month, can the right offer get them to come in 4 times a month? If they spend $50 when they come in, can you get them to spend $70? Can you get them to shop in a higher margin department? Cross-sell or upsell opportunities. So that's where this stuff is really valuable. And what it does is allow you to make much more efficient use of the marketing dollars, so that you're targeting the marketing dollars where they can do the most good, as opposed to just giving the same offer to everybody, regardless of their value, regardless of whether they showed up yesterday or they've been customers for 10 years. I think that's where we add a tremendous amount of value in our industry, is helping marketers optimize the use of those precious marketing dollars and getting some real ROI, because you're able to test and learn and see real results and see whether customers change their behavior.
It's pretty amazing how complicated this got, right? Like, simple loyalty, right? Like simple, from the days where you could walk into a store and somebody would know your name, right? I'm of the generation, the Cheers generation, where everybody knows your name, and the loyalty was the relationships that you formed, and now it's really clearly distilled down to the fact that, listen, if a customer walks into your door, enjoys the experience, is happy with the pricing, and they come back a second time and a third time, you're creating the loyalty, and then it's about increasing basket size, increasing wallet in that from that one customer, and doing so not in a cheesy, smarmy way, but really about engaging with them and finding out what buttons to push that will, keep them there, keep them buying from you, and make them spend a little bit more. And I think that's one of the it has become a science. Is that I would consider you like this generation's scientist, right? Because you're influencing by hypothesizing and then testing and then hypothesizing and testing and implementing. That's the way that this works. Wow. Yeah,
that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Now, it does sound complicated, but at its essence, it's really not that complicated. So I'll use a story to illustrate that point. So in my backyard in Cincinnati, there's a little town in the north of us called Dayton, Ohio. And I've known for many years a gentleman named Norman Main, who owns a 3-store grocery chain in Dayton, Ohio. It's called Dorothy Lane Markets. And about 10 years ago, this guy was watching all the big competitors come in, like Walmart's coming to the fore. Obviously, Kroger in the U.S. is a big competitor in our market. Here he is with his tiny little 3-store grocery chain. And he's doing the newspaper circulars, the deals, putting coupons in the paper, and watching everybody come in, clipping the coupons, all the cherry pickers, right, that just come in and buy the stuff that's on sale and then they leave, right? So finally gets fed up with this. He says, I'm never putting another coupon in the newspaper again. I'm going to spend all of my marketing dollars on my best customers. So that's what he does. Has a little loyalty program, lavishes rewards and offers and recognition on this smaller group of customers, gives them free turkeys on Thanksgiving, gives them special Christmas bonuses that nobody else gets. So he becomes pretty sophisticated in how he does this stuff. But at the essence, it's really simple. He says, I know marketers that spend $100,000 on research that they think helps them understand their customers. And they think that they understand their customers, but it's all, it's third-party research, and they're not sure exactly what to do with it or what they're going to get out of it. He said, for me, it's very simple. If I see a customer in my file that has never bought dog food before, but suddenly buys a bag of dog food, I'm pretty sure that they now have a dog, right? So maybe I should give them an offer for dog treats, right? I'll get them to buy something else they wouldn't buy. If I see somebody buying diapers for the first time, chances are they have a new baby. So I'll send them an offer for dog food, right? Yep. Or a baby.
No, not dog food. Not dog food.
Maybe they eat dog food, but hopefully not. So it's at its essence, that's still what it is. It's going back to that corner store model of the guy, the corner shopkeeper that knew every customer and knew what their preferences were, kept them in his head, and was able to give them special preferential, differentiated treatment. Obviously, we have big companies, big brands, millions of customers. So it's all of this and all the science and everything technology that we bring to bear is really just to get us back to the corner shopkeeper model so that we know what a customer needs when they walk in the door.
It's pretty, what I've seen happen. I mean, it's a great example, right? Is that personal attention to your best customers. And this is what, when I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs in this mobile space or trying to get into this mobile space, they look at mobile as a way to acquire new customers, and it's just a mass. I call it a user hoarding, right? Which is, 10,000, 100,000, 500,000 people, and you're not turning them into revenue, or you're not engaging with them. They're basically, the moment that you bring them in and don't touch them again, they start to dry up and perish, right? So, right. It ends up being user hoarding. So I'm gonna bring in mobile in a second. I keep delaying it because this is a great conversation. But is there a risk, and what we're seeing right now in this world of loyalty programs everywhere, is there a risk of loyalty, the term, the idea, being commoditized to the point where the consumer just ignores the loyalty or just goes for loyalty and there is no real true loyalty that happens?
Well, I mean, certainly, and particularly in mature markets like Canada, like in the U.S., There's certainly saturation of loyalty program offers, right? So, you've got two big we call them coalition loyalty programs, big multi-merchant partner programs like Aeroplan or Air Miles. You've got those. You've got a lot of programs that are run by individual brands in practically every sector. You've got airline programs, you've got frequent flyer programs, you've got hotel programs. So there is a big risk that it all becomes undifferentiating, and there's just a whole lot of offers, and everything becomes commoditized. So there's certainly danger of that. But it really all comes down to understanding what it is that you're trying to accomplish with this type of value play and customer relationship. And it's really to understand your customers better. You have to put the value on the table to encourage the customer to raise a hand, right?
Right.
Because if the customer is not willing to be identified, not willing to be tracked, not willing to engage in dialogue with you, then you've got some other problems. But if they're willing to do that,
you don't have a business if that's happening.
Yeah, the points and the miles and the emails and the special offers, they're all just relationship building tools, and the currency of the relationship is information. Yeah. So you deliver some value to the customer delivers information to you by telling you how much they buy, what they buy, how often they buy, what they're interested in. They answer surveys, and then it's really the onus is on the marketer at that point to close the loop by using the information that they've collected in a way that delivers value back to the customer. And that value means you get an offer that's relevant to you, right? If you are not a golfer, you shouldn't be getting an offer for golf clubs, right? They should know that about you. And the more you do this, and the more you collect and analyze and act upon customer insight, the smarter you get, and then you can get very sophisticated and almost being able to predict what type of response you'll get from a customer on an offer before you send it. And this is what the folks that are very sophisticated in this do. And that's why you see offer response rates within a loyalty context, 30, 40, 50%, offer response rates, whereas in traditional marketing, you might be lucky to get, a 5, 10, 15% response rate.
So there's obviously a good reason to do this because the returns are so high when done right. There's one example here, which is the Gap chain of stores, Banana Republic, the Gap, and Old Navy. And I think what they're trying to do is loyalty, but what they've done is they've affected, shopping patterns, I would say, because, everybody knows that I think it's on Wednesday mornings, you get an email from all of these guys saying, hey, it's 40% off day today. So you're conditioning your users to be able to go, your loyal users, I guess, because we've signed up for a mailing list, to go in and spend 40% less every Wednesday and then not shop the other 6 days and pay full price. Is that an example of a kind of the inverse of a good example of a loyalty program? Because I'm not loyal to anything but the fact that they're giving me 40% off.
Yeah, it's a problem, and the recent example that just kind of fascinated me, and I'll apologize for defaulting to a U.S. example again, but
no worries.
What happened with Ron Johnson? He was the retail guru at Apple, right? Goes to JCPenny, and he says, we're changing JCPenny's pricing policy. Yeah. No more deals, no more clearance racks, simple, transparent pricing. Customers are going to love it. Everything's much more simple. And the whole concept crashes and burns because it turns out customers love the deal. They love clearance racks. They love getting coupons and redeeming them. You don't get the same rush of dopamine from simple everyday pricing that you do when you feel like you're getting a deal, right? And it just shows the power of that type of interactive, deal hound shopping that customers love. So it's not that we're ever going to see, coupons and discounts and sale days. None of that stuff's going to go away because it works, But what you have to do, I think, is use it more surgically and use it like a scalpel rather than a sledgehammer, right? So again, it's not giving the same 20% discount to every single person that walks in the door. Right. It's starting to use those more strategically and targeting them to the customers who you want to maintain that relationship with. So I think that's where you'll see marketers get more sophisticated over time. And of course, mobile is just going to be another incredibly interesting channel to try to deliver these types of offers into a consumer's hands.
Well, thank you for transitioning us over there, Rick. I appreciate that. We're going to get there. And speaking with Rick Ferguson, who's the Vice President, Knowledge Development for a company called Aimia. They run some of the biggest loyalty programs, Air Miles, Aeroplan, huge company, huge amount of data. We're talking about the impact of loyalty. We're moving into this around mobile. It's one of these services that we see popping up everywhere. Loyalty is one of the first things that mobile has attacked, right? Where we're talking about the consolidation of loyalty cards, the ability to communicate with a consumer directly through SMS, through mobile apps, through the mobile web, through email. But all of a sudden, people are using these devices to find stores location, doing inventory lookup, actually, showrooming in the case of, folks like Best Buy and Chapters here in Canada and Barnes & Noble in the US. So all of a sudden retail is under siege, and now everybody wants to kind of embrace mobile as the true loyalty tool. So it's come of age, so to speak. Something that's technically been around since the 50s, brought on by the airline industry, is now coming of age because of mobile. Is that am I generalizing there, or are we starting to see this accelerate as a result of the smartphones that we carry?
Well, I'll tell you what I think the key difference is. Obviously, it's an exciting new communications channel, right? And I think one of the things that mobile marketers may lose sight of sometimes is that consumers don't buy these devices because they want to be marketed to through them, right? They buy these devices and use them because they're tools that enhance their personal lives, right?
Right.
That's why we buy them.
Yeah.
And any offer that comes through this mobile device, if it's not an offer that enhances the life of the user, makes their life better, easier, helps them spend more, make better decisions, they'll ignore those offers, right? You're only going to respond to an offer on a mobile device that has real resonance. So it's even more imperative that the offer is relevant and timely and is something that engages the consumer's value detectors like immediately. I don't think you'll get a second chance in mobile. We used to do this stuff through email. Email, you might get a few chances, right? Because you can delete an email without opening it. But the land rush into mobile to use these tools as communication devices and then as loyalty devices, there's a risk that we're all just going to inundate these consumers that don't necessarily see any value in this stuff, and they're going to disengage from it very quickly. The other difference is that from our perspective as loyalty marketers, our relationship building efforts would typically begin post transaction. So what I mean by that is once the consumer makes a purchase, then the relationship building effort begins, because you know what they bought, when they bought it, and you start to use that information to build relationship. What mobile offers is the chance to build a relationship at both points before and after the transaction, right? It's another really interesting potential information source if you're able to convince a customer that it's in their best interest to allow you to build a relationship with them through this device. Certainly, all the location-based opportunities are very interesting. What type of information can you learn from the customer when they walk into the store? What type of offers are they willing to respond to on location? What types of messages are they interested in receiving and responding to through the device before purchase? What are they looking at? Are they using it for user reviews? Are they using it for live price checks? All this new information that happens before the transaction even occurs, that's really exciting for us as loyalty marketers. Conversely, there's lots of information that's potentially available post-purchase through branded apps, right, that consumers continue to interact with. So I always use the example of the Nike app, right? The buy a pair of Nike shoes, download the Nike app. It's connected to your social graph. You can keep track of your runs. You can tell people what you're doing and how often you're running, and it's very exciting for the consumer. A lot of people are using it. Think about all the information that Nike is collecting through this device on their users post-purchase, how they use their shoes, how often they run. This is incredibly valuable data for Nike that they would not have without the mobile device. So it's all that information that happens before the purchase and all this information that happens after the purchase that mobile forwards. That's really exciting for marketers.
So, I mean, ultimately, this is a brand new way of engaging. And as you said, you've got to be very careful when it comes to how you engage with the consumer, because we don't buy these devices to get fed ads, which is what it comes down to. And everybody has talked about how personal these devices are, and they are. I mean, they are. Not only how we set them up and how we use them, but the information that is provided from within these apps outbound is very personal as well. It can be. Mm-hmm. But is it fair to say that we're kind of in an accelerated phase of loyalty as a result of this? I mean, are things happening much faster in this industry, consolidation happening much faster in this industry as a result of this perfect end device?
It absolutely is happening faster. We used to measure the cycle of creative destruction in years, right? So if you had a good handle on what was happening in your business, you were good for a couple of years, right? Before you had to kind of relearn everything. And now it seems like that cycle is shortened to about 6 months. Yeah. At least it has for me, right? I mean, you might think you know everything about what's happening on mobile and, through all the things that are happening in retail and showrooming and all that kind of stuff. You might think you know everything, but within weeks, everything you know is different, right?
It's not fair. It's not fair.
To me, it's just astounding at how quickly things change. And it's really, really difficult to keep up with changes in technology and market forces and consumer behavior.
Yeah. You can't really predict it. I mean, for all the data that's coming in, nobody saw this really happening. Nobody saw this revolution that we're in the middle of, and we're gasping for air as it's going. It's overtaking us almost. Nobody saw this. I mean, maybe Steve Jobs did, maybe Jim Balsillie, Lazaridis, these guys who are building the devices, but I don't even think that they saw it. And Zuckerberg recently said, Mark Zuckerberg really recently said that, hey, you know what? Nobody saw this. So Nobody saw this, and don't lie because you didn't see it. I didn't see it. We were going along our business, and all of a sudden, mobile landed in our lap. And it wasn't just mobile; it was mobile with billions of connected devices clamoring for something. Right? It wasn't like the internet, where it was a push. The internet happened and it slowly spread. This was everybody who's carrying these devices, sending text messages, pulling, and this is where we end up. So, is there a point now where loyalty becomes dial tone? Where it's so in the back, like your company. I mean, Aimia is a company that many people, and even Aeroplan before that, would never have heard of, but you power some of the biggest brands. So at some point, is it an assumed thing that happens that loyalty is just a dial tone? You make a transaction, you buy something in a store, whether it's through a debit card, a credit card, cash, or a mobile payment, and it's just like, okay, loyalty's done as a result of that. Does it get to that point?
I don't think so, because the difference is always going to be on how well you use the information that you're collecting on consumers, right? Because it's both easy and hard. Like we said, going back to the old Dayton, Ohio example, at a fundamental level, it's pretty easy to do some of this stuff. It's not rocket science to understand that if a customer buys X, he might be interested in buying Y. So send him an offer for Y and see if he bites. At its fundamental level, it's really not that complicated. So it's always good to rely on the fundamentals. But what the difference, of course, is in the sheer numbers of consumers that we're talking about now. We're talking about millions of consumers, and that's where it gets complex. So the winners, in our view, are always going to be the folks that stay the closest to the customer relationship. And everything that you do, whether it's through mobile or through your website or even in the store, everything that you do is in the service of the relationship. We talk a lot about relationship continuity, right? Because what often happens is marketing promotions are disconnected from each other. There's no story being told. So here's a promotion for X. Okay, customer responds or they don't. And a few weeks go by, here's a promotion for Y. They respond or they don't. There's no attempt to connect a thread of a relationship there. So what I mean by that is if you do this stuff correctly, okay, if you send an offer for something, consumer responds. So then you say, okay, we know that you responded to this offer, Mr. Customer. You may now be interested in this. Are you interested or not? If you're not, great. We've learned something about you, so you won't get that offer from us again. If you do respond to this, we know that you're interested in, so maybe you'll be interested in Z, right? So there's a constant sense that just as in any personal relationship, right, as the deeper the relationship goes, the more interaction you have with an individual, the more you trust them, the more you like them, the more you want to spend time with them. And it's the same concept in a consumer brand relationship. It's the difference between just a series of, one night stands versus a long-term romantic relationship, right? That's really what we're talking about.
And good positioning and good marketing in the last one, right?
Right.
Yeah. The reason this is so important right now is because there is, I think, a lazy way to do loyalty, and then there's an engaged way to do loyalty. And I think that what you're discussing here is an engaged way to do loyalty, which is really trying to understand what it is that your customer wants, and then make sure you service the hell out of that, right? And make sure you know your customer inside and out. And maybe if you don't know their first name, that's okay, but understand what the motivators are for them to be able to be in your store, be on your website, be in your app, and purchase. And I think that the collection of the loyalty pieces, right? The automatic debit of a loyalty card, for example, and the automatic collection of points happens through things like, single sign-on loyalty cards. That's just a mechanism. Credit cards that are tied up to your loyalty points. That's just a mechanism to absolutely enable loyalty, isn't it? And we can't get those two confused.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the means to an end. Yeah. It's the device.
Okay.
In the old days, the device was, the stamps that you put in a book and mailed it in. Then it became the plastic card, right? So we've had a good 30 years of using plastic card, whether it's just a loyalty membership card or a credit card or a debit card. That's the device that enables the transfer of the value in information and value and relevance. So that device will eventually migrate to mobile, and the plastic card goes away, probably. It may not happen as fast as everybody thinks it will. The science fiction author William Gibson, his famous quote is, "The future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed yet," right? So, or everywhere in Canada and in the U.S. and all other parts of the world, this stuff's already going on. It's just not everywhere yet.
Right.
So I think we'll see it happen in fits and starts. I think you'll see the loyalty device migrate to mobile. You'll start to see the adoption of mobile wallet. We did some research in Canada and the US and the UK on the millennial generation Y, millennials. So we looked at their behavior in Canada and in the other two markets. And there's definitely a higher interest amongst Generation Y in mobile wallet and using mobile as a loyalty ID and using it for online banking and all those kinds of things. There's definitely a much greater interest amongst this generation than older consumers, but even amongst them, the levels of interest are still fairly low. So consumers understand that it's coming, I think, but there's very much, I think, a wait and see attitude. Like, we don't understand the value. We don't understand how this is going to make our lives better. So again, the onus is on us marketers to try to, when we do this stuff, to demonstrate that immediate value, because I really think that's the difference in mobile. I think mobile, you don't get more than one chance.
No, and we are very fickle on this mobile space. It is funny because everybody talked about the web as that way. You have like 3.5 or 3.8 seconds to make an impression, and that guy's gone off your website. And I know that it was bull. Really, these days there's more than one chance. But mobile, we're in that stage right now where everybody says that you have one impression. If you screw it up, and I think that is really where we are with this. And loyalty on these devices is so tenuous. Right, the relationships that we've got with retailers are so tenuous. I'm going to ask you about tips in a second, but I want to talk really about the impact of pricing and loyalty. Right, so hear me out here for a second. I'm wondering this because as a loyal shopper or a loyal consumer to a brand or a location or a grocer, right, I put up with things like maybe higher prices. Maybe I sometimes put up with things like, in the case of my mother, she shops at this one store. She's been shopping there for 45 years, right? So she puts up with maybe not having the freshest produce some days, or inventory might be low or non-available for some products because it's a smaller chain or a smaller store. So you put up with those things as a loyal consumer. So what does this do for pricing? On the other hand, I kind of follow where the best price is. My father-in-law, travels to 9 stores because those are 9 places where he gets the best price on things. So there's no loyalty there other than to price. So does loyalty allow you to eventually shift the balance? You said at the beginning, as a consumer, we have a lot of power right now. But does loyalty allow the retailers to shift the balance back a little bit in their favor and start to actually make money off of the things that they sell without having to discount it? It's a long way to ask that question, but you get the gist.
Yeah, I think it does. I mean, it's certainly a much more challenging environment than it used to be, particularly with the showrooming effect, right? It used to be that if a retailer claimed to have the lowest price and you're in the store, you're looking at television, they say they have the lowest price, you kind of have to take them on faith, right?
I believe you. Yes.
You could walk out and go check, but it takes a while. You got to go to 6 or 7 different stores or look in the newspaper, right? The internet made that significantly easier to do pricing checks. Now mobile comes along and you can do it right in the store in front of the television. So that's, of course, a tremendous challenge to retail because price is now transparent.
Right.
Pricing used to be opaque. Now it's transparent. It takes 30 seconds to figure out if that flat screen really is giving you the lowest price or if you need to go buy it somewhere else. So that's a new reality for retailers. That's not going to go away. That's the new reality that we all live in. It used to be quality. Again, going back to Ray Kroc's drivers, quality used to be an individual decision, right? You would decide if something, if a brand had quality products and service. Well, now it's all user reviews. Yeah. Now it's Yelp, and now it's all the other ways that you have to, even before you experience the brand yourself, to make a decision about it or form an opinion about it. So price is transparent. Quality is now determined by consensus. And that's the new reality that we all live in. So it's tremendously challenging. But that being said, if you do have that deep relationship that we're talking about that's based on insight and based on understanding the customer better than your competitor does, then they are much more forgiving on price. And it's not that they're willing to, be taken advantage of, but if the pricing difference is within the margin of error and you're a little bit higher, if they feel the pull of that relationship, then yeah, you'll get the benefit of the doubt. And while on big ticket items like, televisions and computers and those types of things, we're probably at the point where, they're always going to go for the lowest price on that item, whether it's yours or your competitors. But certainly the ability to deliver variable pricing to customers based on their value and relevance is a tremendous opportunity. So not everybody should theoretically get the same price. Your better customers maybe should get a lower price than customers that just walked in the door, right? So I think you're going to see a lot more of that. And certainly retailers are going to start doing more of that. They're going to work a lot more closely with their manufacturer partners to do a lot more of that segmented type pricing. It's going to start to influence the mix of items that you see actually in the store, right? So the more you understand about what your customers purchase and are interested in, that's going to influence what products get on the shelves. All this is based on the effective use of customer data. So it's the ability to deliver on that promise, which frankly consumers expect from us now. That's the real opportunity for us. I don't see that part of it as a challenge. I see that as an opportunity. And the folks that are able to do that successfully are going to enjoy a pretty healthy advantage.
What are your metrics? If you're a company that was going to apply a loyalty program, or you're in the middle of applying a loyalty program, or you're established, what are the metrics that they should be monitoring here to gauge whether or not this is working for them, or they have to adjust? Because you don't want to do it too quickly. You don't want to be too reactive here. You want to accumulate data before you make a decision, but then you don't want to wait too long to act on that decision. So what are the key metrics that they should be watching over?
Yeah, again, at the simplest level, the mantra is you collect only the data that you plan to use, and use the data that you collect. So there's a temptation to boil the ocean, right, or drink from the fire hose, because really the problem today is not that we don't have enough data. We're drowning in data. We've got too much of it. We don't know what to do with the data that we have, whether it's transactional data or SKU level data or loyalty program data coming into the mobile device. There's just so much of it that the temptation is either A, do nothing, B, just give a 20% off coupon to everybody and forget about it, or C, just try to do too much at once and fail at everything. Yeah. So we're strong advocates of the test and learn approach, right? So when we advise on loyalty program strategy, you have to decide some basic fundamentals about the program based on your brand, the type of customers that you have, your product margins, how much money you have to play with. All those decisions factor into the structure of the program, and that might help you decide whether you're going to charge a membership fee to join your program, or whether you're going to offer it free to everybody. Different strategic decisions will help you make that choice. What you offer in terms of reward. Are you going to offer some type of a currency like points or miles? Are you just going to give everybody cash back? Are you going to make it a discount-based program? Are you going to offer a lot of recognition? All those factors will be decided based on who you are, who your customers are, and what you can afford to do. Once you've got all that into place to structure, then it's a test and learn environment. You use the science metaphor early on in our conversation, which I believe quite strongly in. We really are marketing scientists, right? And the idea is use this laboratory available to you through the program to test and learn. You've done your basic customer segmentation. And again, you're really talking about two groups of customers: high current value, high potential value. High current value customers, lavish them with recognition. Let them know that you love them and that you appreciate their business and that you don't want them to go away. So use the program to do that. The high potential customers, that's where you can have some real fun as a scientist, right? So you're constantly testing offers. You know, if I give this person a double points offer, will she come in one extra time per month? Will she come in on a Tuesday? Will she try this new product? So you continually use this test and learn environment. And if the test fails, well, like any good scientist, you go back to the drawing board. If the test is successful, then that helps you, decide what to do next. You expand, you refine, and you get smarter over time. And again, the folks that have been doing this for a long time they're pretty sophisticated in how they do it, and they have a reasonable certainty that if they send a customer an offer, that customer will respond, because they know, based on all the history and all the test and learning that they've done, that they think it is the right offer at the right time to the right customer through the right channel. And that's what we're all trying to do. So I always advise on just focusing very, very early on some quick wins. Just do some simple offers, test and learn. And what's good about this environment is you do see the direct result of your actions.
Totally right? Measurable.
Unlike running a commercial where maybe it has causation, but you can't prove it. At best, you can prove correlation. In this environment, you can definitely tie action to result because you have the data. And that's the big advantage to this type of marketing as opposed to just mass marketing.
So I love that. Like, I'm a data geek, right? So, and I think that you have to be in this business and to understand the impact that asking the right questions or collecting the right data can do. But what you said very early on, I just can't reiterate it more often enough, and I say it quite a bit in these shows, is that collect the data that you're going to use and don't collect anything else. And then if you at some point realize you need to collect some more data, go and collect that data from that point forward. Don't pull it all in because it rots. Data rots. And if you're not using it, you're wasting everybody's time. So I love that you said that. That's very important. All right. Last piece here, I'm very interested in, it's all easy to talk about this. It's very easy to say, listen, this is what you should do, this is what you shouldn't do, but there's got to be some tips that you can impart on this audience to say, they are in the mobile space, they're clamoring for loyalty. You know, this is a group of entrepreneurs and businesses that think 1,000 customers is terrible. It's not enough, right? They need 10,000 and 100,000 customers. But I beg to differ. I think you can make a good business off of 10 customers or 100 customers to start with. But if they want to create loyalty among their users, which is very difficult in the mobile space, is there where should they start? How do they get going in this on the right foot? What are some of the tips that you would provide to them?
I would always focus on asking permission for everything you do. I think that's one of the most important things that you can do as you're trying to build a relationship with a customer, right? So tell them up front what data you're going to collect on them. You know, be very transparent in your, not only in your terms and conditions. You know, a lot of people just feel like if they've got, you know, their data policy articulated in their 20-page terms and conditions folder that they've done their job, right? But that's not the case, right? You need to be very explicit and transparent right up front. If you do this for me, this is what I'm going to collect. I'm going to collect this, this, and this. And I'm not going to sell it to anybody else, or if I do, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do with it, and then you're going to see that I've closed the loop because you're going to see the results of what I say I'm going to do with it. So you're constantly asking permission, you're constantly reinforcing the value that they're going to get with this relationship, and then you deliver on your promises. It's really that simple. And certainly, particularly in the mobile space, I think, and particularly with the primary generational users of mobile devices, which are Generation Y, certainly there's some characteristics of this generation that are both the opportunity for mobile marketers. One is that there's a much higher need for instant gratification amongst this generation. So they want to see value in the relationship very, very quickly. So you need to demonstrate that value immediately and repeatedly. And then certainly there's opportunities for engagement that go beyond the traditional points and miles model of loyalty, right? It's not that you have to always default to the old points-based model. You could certainly incorporate engagement tactics, gamification, interesting location-based opportunities that deliver value to the consumer without necessarily requiring you to just continue the old model of giving points or currency to everybody that uses your program. So the mobile device, I think, gives you a lot of potential opportunity there. So I would say, start simple. Collect the data you use the data you collect. Focus on delivering value immediately as soon as you can early on in the relationship, and then just use it as a test and learn environment, and you will get smarter over time. Don't try to do everything at once. I think that's probably the biggest mistake we see people make, is they try to do everything at once and they don't see the results. They blame the concept and then they just go on and try something else. But I can't think of a better or more fertile laboratory for relationship building than loyalty in general. And the mobile device is just the latest and perhaps most fantastic tool for the marketing scientist to use to try to become smarter in how they build relationships.
I love it. Those are great tips, and it's so appropriate that that we're having this conversation just around the fact that I firmly believe that mobile can enhance a brand. It can build a brand if done right. Right? You can accelerate the growth. You can build new business. You can disrupt existing businesses through this medium if done right. On the flip side, if you default to lazy engagement, which is the flat out 20% discount to everybody, no preferential treatment for your deepest and most loyal customers, you will damage your brand. You will damage it beyond. You will become, a second tier merchant or business in their eyes if you don't do it properly. So, and I've started to see this over the last year. Companies that had a high brand esteem have started to deteriorate because of the way that they've used or not used or embraced or not embraced mobile. And typically the company that is lazy around this kind of thing, around loyalty and engagement, is losing right now and will continue to lose. So two things. If you are a business out there, look for those companies that are losing and do the opposite of what they're doing. And you can take their business from them. And if you are a company that has noticed that, you're getting 1-star reviews and you're not doing anything about it, your customers aren't buying from you, you're having to discount more and more and more, you're on a treadmill that is just not going to, you're not going to get off that treadmill. You're just going to head for that cliff and fall right off it. So you got to stop and change things very quickly. And I think that those, is that a good way to summarize that?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I think, there's a tremendous amount of opportunity, and I really do believe that you're going to see a renaissance, not only in loyalty marketing, but in mobile marketing and marketing in general. Because the kind of stuff that we've been talking about, those who've been in this space for a while, we've been talking about recognition and reward and value exchange and the importance of customer insight. We've been talking about it for 10 or 15 years, and the problem was always that the technical reality seldom lived up to the promise, right? We just didn't have the tools at our disposal. So yeah, we knew that if we collected data and used it effectively, we could get smarter and build stronger relationships. But it was either too expensive, or the tools didn't work right, or they didn't live up to their promises. So there's a lot of disconnect between promise and reality. But I think we're in an environment now where the promise is the reality. we really do have the tools at our disposal now. The tools are affordable. Mobile device opens up all these new opportunities. So I think this is the era in which loyalty finally lives up to the promise. And it's a very exciting time to be involved in the industry. And we're going to be learning along with everybody else.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I'm with you, Rick. I can't wait to see what happens with this. And we all know this is beyond the banner ad. So if you guys are here to just listen about the banner ad, go somewhere else, because this is beyond the banner ad. This is actually delivering value. So where should we send people? Just to the website, the Aimia website, to get more information about you guys?
Yeah, Aimia.com, and all kinds of cool stuff there. And I'm on there, so if anybody has any questions for me, feel free to reach out. Happy to chat, and really enjoyed this, and happy to do more of it anytime you're interested in one.
Well, I'm always interested in this, Rick, the value that you provide. And I know that you guys out there who are watching or listening found this of tremendous value. If you did, just hit up Rick. Email him and thank him for doing this. That's the best way that you can help spread the word and help actually show that Rick provided some value for your business. So we've been speaking with Rick Ferguson, who's the Vice President Knowledge Development for Aimia. Go to aimia.com. That's AIMIA.com. And Rick, I can't thank you enough for doing this. I really appreciate you spending some time and sharing your insight about this, burgeoning, I'd say burgeoning in quotes, growth industry around loyalty, because it's so very important for businesses in mobile and in out. So I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate you having me. Appreciate it.
Everybody out there, whoever you are, wherever you are, I really appreciate the fact that you spend some time with me and today, Rick. And you know what? If you guys are finding this of great value, reach out, untether@gmail.com, rob@untether.tv, any way that you can, any way that you find a way to reach out, even through Twitter @RobWoodbridge. Really appreciate some comments, some feedback if you're finding this of any value. So I really want to hear from you. It's not a lie. Feedback is good. Feedback is very good and bad. But that's it for today's show. Rick, thank you so much for doing this. Everybody else, we'll see you next time on untether.tv. Thanks, Rick.
Thank you.